She parked in her own driveway and was slapped with a $10,000 fine. But what started as a single ticket turned into a national movement, and what she uncovered shook the entire city. You won't believe who was behind it and why they wanted her gone. The sun had just begun to rise over the sleepy suburb of Oak Ridge Heights. Amber Hastings stepped onto her porch with a steaming mug of black coffee. The early morning air carried a faint chill, crisp and tinged with the scent of wet pavement. Birds chirped lazily in the hedges, unaware of the letter wedge between the screen door and the frame. She reached for it, expecting another ad or a local newsletter. But the envelope was heavy, official, stamped with the city seal in glaring red ink. Her stomach dropped. The paper crinkled sharply as she opened it with trembling fingers. She read the first line. Notice of municipal violation. A breeze lifted her robe slightly, but she stood frozen. Fine $10,000. Her breath caught in her throat. Her eyes darted to the next lines. Infraction, unauthorized vehicle storage on residential property. A loud creak came from across the street, Mr. Dobbins rolling his trash bin to the curb. Amber blinked, confused, staring at her own driveway. Her silver Honda Civic sat exactly where it always had, right next to the faded chalk drawings her daughter had made last weekend, the same spot it had occupied for 5 years. The breeze shifted again, and with it came the low hum of a neighbor's lawnmower starting up. She looked around. Everything seemed normal, too normal, like the world had not just tipped sideways. She read the notice again, slower this time. Her palms grew slick with sweat. Her heart thudded against her ribs. The letter claimed her driveway was non-conforming, a technical violation, they said, based on a code passed 6 months ago. Amber's mouth went dry. No one had told her. No warnings. No visits. Just this. $10,000. A shiver crawled up her spine. She stepped off the porch, barefoot, gravel biting at her feet. She circled the car, trying to see what the city saw. The sun glinted off the windshield, momentarily blinding her. She squinted. The same driveway. The same cracks in the concrete. The same oil stain shaped like a sleeping dog. Then she saw it. A small, freshly posted sign across the street. Bright yellow. Barely bigger than a license plate. Zoning change effective April 1st. She remembered the date. She remembered the email. Something about a vote at City Hall. She had deleted it, assumed it was not important. Now the silence of the morning felt heavier, oppressive. Even the birds had stopped singing. The hum of the lawnmower cut out. A distant car door slammed. And then she saw her neighbor, Mrs. Kinney, watching from behind a curtain, only her eyes visible, cold, knowing. Amber's hand trembled as she reached for her phone. Her screen lit up with a new message. From the city, final notice, payment due within 72 hours. She blinked, her vision blurred for a second. The numbers swam on the screen. She looked up. A tow truck turned onto her street, moving slowly. Deliberately, the sun vanished behind a cloud, and everything went dim. The tow truck crept closer. Its amber lights flashed silently, casting eerie glows across the pavement. Amber's breath came shallow now. She stepped back onto the porch, clutching her phone like a lifeline. The boards creaked beneath her bare feet. The driver of the truck did not honk. He just pulled up beside her driveway. The engine idled low, like a growl held in the throat. He stepped out slowly, wore a navy jumpsuit, city emblem stitched above the chest. He avoided eye contact, clipped a paper to a metal clipboard. Amber's voice finally returned, ragged and too soft. There must be some mistake. The man glanced at her, expression unreadable. No mistake, ma'am. Order came down this morning. His boots thudded as he walked toward her car. Amber rushed forward, shielding it with her body. This is my driveway, she said. My property. He sighed. You will need to talk to zoning. I am just a pickup. He held out the paper. A seizure authorization. Signed and stamped. Filed at 6:14 a.m. Before she had even sipped her coffee. Her hands shook as she read. The paper fluttered in the wind. She felt dizzy. A hollow ringing in her ears. She saw her reflection in the car window. Pale, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like someone waiting for a scream to come. The driver walked around the car, attached the steel hook. Metal clanked against metal. Amber flinched. "This is insane," she whispered. He said nothing. The tow truck beeped once. The winch began to pull. Her Civic's front tires lifted off the concrete. She felt like her stomach lifted with them. "Wait," she said. "Wait, please." She darted to the truck's door, banged on it. "Please, just wait. I will call someone." The driver stepped between her and the truck. "Calm. Flat. Do not interfere, ma'am." He gestured back toward her porch. Amber backed away. A dog barked in the distance. Somewhere a sprinkler sputtered to life. The sound seemed too cheerful, too clean. She stumbled onto the porch, sat on the top step, stared at the street. Her Civic rocked slightly as the rear tires lifted next. A strange moan escaped her lips. Not quite a sob, more like disbelief made sound. Her phone buzzed again. She did not look. The Civic was fully airborne now, suspended like a caught animal, stripped of motion, stripped of dignity. A black bird landed on her mailbox. It cocked its head, watched the tow truck drive off. Amber watched too, until the flashing lights vanished at the corner. Then silence, heavy and thick. She sat like that for minutes, maybe hours. Time felt like warm tar, slow, sticky. She finally stood, went back inside. Her hallway felt colder than usual. The tiles beneath her feet were slick with morning dew from her robe. The house groaned faintly. She turned on the kitchen light. It flickered, buzzed, stayed on. She poured the coffee down the drain. The bitter steam rose and vanished. She opened the fridge, stared into it. Did not want food, did not want anything. Closed it again. Her phone buzzed once more. She picked it up. "Your case has been forwarded to collections." She leaned against the counter, slid down until she sat on the floor. Her head rested against the cabinet. She stared at the baseboard. There was a crack she had never noticed. Thin, crooked, like a hairline fracture in bone. She followed it with her eyes. Up, across, into shadow. Her breathing steadied. Slower now, but the chill remained. She picked up the notice again, traced the words with her finger. Non-conforming driveway. She thought of all the nights she had pulled in from work, late, exhausted, the porch light always blinking, the dog barking inside, her daughter waving from the window. It was not just concrete. It was memory. It was safety. It was hers. And now it was a violation. She stood again, walked down the hall, into the living room, opened the curtains. The street looked the same. Too much the same. Mrs. Kinney was outside now, clipping her roses. She glanced up. Their eyes met. A flicker of something passed between them. Recognition, or guilt, or both. Amber closed the curtains, sat on the couch, folded the notice, placed it under the coaster. She would deal with it. But not yet. Not today. Outside, another truck passed. She listened for the brakes, watched for lights. But it kept going. For now, the wind picked up, rustled the bushes. And in that sound, Amber heard something else. Something waiting, something coming. And she did not know if it would stop. She stood slowly, unsure what had pulled her to her feet. The curtains moved gently in the wind from a half-open window. A gust brought in the scent of freshly cut grass and something else, acrid, faintly chemical. She shut the window. The lock clicked louder than she expected. The house felt different now, like it was watching her, or remembering something with her. She walked to the hallway closet, opened it, stared at the stack of unopened mail on the top shelf. She had ignored most of it. Now she pulled it down. The envelope slid onto the floor in a soft avalanche. Some stamped in red, others thicker. One labeled notice of zoning proposal, public hearing invitation. She opened it, dated 7 months ago. Details on her zoning initiative, public input encouraged. She had never gone, had never read it. It had sat quietly, waiting to matter. And now it did. She spread the rest of the papers across the kitchen table. Fine print, maps, drawings of proposed greenways and bike paths, a note on aesthetic alignment with new neighborhood development plans. Amber laughed once. Dry, sharp, there had been whispers. A new grocery chain, wider sidewalks, better lighting. She thought it was progress. She had not realized she was in the way. She picked up her phone, dialed the city's code enforcement number. A robotic voice answered, directed her through a maze of options. Her finger hovered over "Speak to a representative." She pressed it. The hold music began. Light piano. Too cheerful. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. The music stopped. A new voice spoke. Measured. Professional. "This is Dana, City Compliance Office. How can I assist you today?" Amber's voice cracked slightly. "I received a notice this morning. $10,000. For parking in my own driveway." Silence on the other end. Then keys tapping. "Name and address, please." Amber gave it. She heard Dana exhale quietly. "Yes, I see the citation. Property listed as non-conforming after zoning update. The driveway extends into a section now classified as utility easement. Parking there is prohibited." Amber blinked. "What utility? No one uses it." "I understand, but the zoning update reclassified the frontage. It is not about use. It is about designation. It is my property. The easement overrides private designation in this case. You were sent multiple notices. I never saw them." Dana's tone did not change. "We sent 5. They were not returned. That counts as delivery." Amber's hands curled into fists. There was no warning before the fine. "There was," Dana said softly. "A door tag was placed last Thursday. It is documented." Amber closed her eyes. She had found a soggy card under her doormat that day. Had thrown away, thinking it was junk. "Can I appeal?" There was a pause. "You can request a hearing. But please be advised, appeals rarely overturn zoning violations." Amber almost whispered. "Then what do I do?" "You pay, or the city pursues collections and potential property lien." A deep hum started in her ears again. It was like the house was holding its breath. "Is this happened to anyone else?" she asked. Dana paused again. "Yes," she said, but offered no names, no numbers, just confirmation that this was not personal. Amber ended the call. The silence returned. Not peaceful, not calm, just heavy. She walked out the front door. The concrete beneath her feet felt different now, like a trap disguised as a welcome mat. She walked the length of the driveway, measured it with her steps. 12 feet wide, 18 feet long. She knelt down and touched it. The concrete was warm from the sun, rough, familiar. This was where her daughter had learned to ride her bike, where her husband had once fixed a flat tire on a freezing night, where she had cried after her last job interview fell through. It was not just concrete. It was part of her. And now it was criminal. A blue sedan pulled up across the street. A man stepped out. Slick hair, pressed suit, tablet in hand. He glanced at her, tapped something on the screen, then turned to Mrs. Kinney's house. Amber watched him knock. Mrs. Kinney answered. They spoke briefly. She smiled, nodded. Amber could not hear them, but she knew the same thing was coming for someone else now. She was just the first wave, a test case. Amber stood, went back inside. She began pulling boxes from the garage. Old documents, blueprints, the original survey of her lot, handwritten notes from the first owner. She would not go quietly. She would not vanish beneath the weight of quiet rules. The sun dipped lower. The shadows stretched longer. The neighborhood began to hum with evening noise. Bikes on sidewalks, TVs flickering through windows. But her house stayed dark. She worked late into the night, scanned everything, printed backups, filed reports. She found 3 inconsistencies in the zoning map. 1 form is dated, 1 signature missing. She called a friend from law school, left a message. She posted in the neighborhood forum, asked questions, pointed out changes. The thread exploded by midnight. Other neighbors were confused, worried, angry. Amber felt something stir, a new kind of energy, not fear, but fire. She poured another cup of coffee, opened a fresh document on her laptop, titled it, Displacement by Design, How Cities Erase the Poor Quietly. She began to write, each sentence sharper than the last, each paragraph a brick in a wall, the wall she would stand behind, or use to block what was coming. By 2 a.m., she had 30 pages. By 3, a reporter from the local paper had messaged her, heard your car was taken. Can we talk? She replied, yes, but this is bigger than my car. She pressed send, and for the first time that day, she smiled, not out of relief, not out of victory, but because now someone else was watching too. The morning light returned, pale and unsure. Amber sat on the front steps again, clutching a mug of reheated coffee. The warmth seeped into her hands, but did not reach her chest. A soft breeze passed through the neighborhood, stirring wind chimes and loose leaves. She had not slept, but her mind felt sharp, focused. Across the street, Mrs. Kinney's house was quiet. No roses trimmed this morning. No twitch of the curtain. Only stillness. Amber's phone buzzed. The reporter. Can we meet? I'm 10 minutes away. She typed back. Yes. Front porch. She closed her laptop gently, like it was fragile. She had written all night, outlining, citing, connecting invisible lines, between zoning and silence, between property lines and power. She could see it now, how the city carved through the neighborhood without lifting a single bulldozer, how it pushed people out by rewriting definitions. She heard the car before she saw it, a gray Prius, neat, efficient. A woman stepped out, early 30s, canvas bag slung over one shoulder, phone already recording. She offered a small nod. Amber? Amber nodded back. I'm Elise, Oak Ridge Sentinel. She sat on the step next to her, careful not to spill her iced coffee. I read your post. People are furious. Amber smiled faintly. I was too late for myself. Maybe not for them. Elise raised an eyebrow. Tell me everything. So Amber did. She started with the letter, the fine, the tow truck, the silence that followed. Elise typed quickly, occasionally glancing up to ask a question. How long have you lived here? 7 years. Did you ever get a notice before last week? No, unless you count a soggy car that blew under my mat. Elise grimaced. And this driveway's been like this the whole time? Same cracks, same slope, same chalk drawings in the corner. They both looked at the faint rainbow smudge near the curb. Elise snapped a photo. Then more. The house. The driveway. The yellow zoning sign across the street. Amber pointed. That was not there 2 weeks ago. Elise nodded slowly. You said you found inconsistencies in the zoning documents? Amber handed her a folder. Dates do not match. Public vote never recorded. And this signature. She tapped the last page. It is from someone who retired last year. Elise looked up sharply. That's enough to launch a hearing. Amber nodded. I do not want my car back. I want them to answer for this. The two women sat in silence for a long moment. Cars passed by. A jogger waved. Kids pedaled by on bikes, oblivious. Finally, Elise stood. I'm writing the story today. Online by sunset. Print by Friday. Amber stood with her. Thank you. No. Thank you, Elise said. She left. Amber watched the car disappear down the block. Inside, the phone began ringing again. More neighbors. More voices. A man from 2 streets over had just received his first notice. A woman nearby found a flag in her yard. A pink ribbon tied around a bush she had not planted. Something was happening. Not just to Amber. To all of them. She spent the rest of the morning calling, asking questions, sharing her findings. By afternoon, the neighborhood forum had turned into a wildfire. Photos of fines, screenshots of letters, confused posts, angry ones, determined ones. Someone suggested a meeting. Amber offered her driveway. Fitting, she thought. At 5 o'clock, the first car pulled up. By 5:15, there were 10 people on her lawn. By 6, nearly 30. Some stood, some sat on the steps. They brought papers. Stories. One woman had been fined for her garden shed. Another man for using gravel instead of cement. They had never spoken like this before. Now they leaned in close, shared coffee, passed around documents. Amber stood up, held up her folder. I am not a lawyer anymore, but I know this is wrong. Murmurs of agreement rippled. She pointed toward the street. We are being erased, one code at a time. She handed out copies of her findings, outlined a list of questions. People took notes. One man offered to print flyers, another to host a website. A teenage girl volunteered to film the meeting. Voices rose, not in anger, but in resolve. Amber looked around, saw something bloom she had not expected. Community, ownership, resistance. That night, Elise called again. The story is live, she said. Amber opened the link. The driveway that sparked a movement. Her face on the banner. Her quote in bold. If they want to bury us in paperwork, we will learn to read the fine print. By morning, the city had issued a statement. Generic, vague. We are reviewing current zoning enforcement practices. Amber laughed. The battle had just begun. But now they knew her name. Now they had to watch her back. More reporters called. A council member reached out, requested a private meeting. Amber agreed, but insisted on witnesses. She was not afraid anymore. She had been silenced once. That would not happen again. By the end of the week, the fine was paused, the lien withdrawn. Her car remained impounded. She did not ask for it. She wanted a new one, something with scars, something with purpose. Neighbors kept meeting, kept writing, kept fighting. The story was picked up nationally. Her inbox flooded. Some letters were angry, but most were grateful. People from other cities, other states, all asking the same thing. How did this happen to you? What can we do to stop it? Amber replied to everyone, late into the nights, fingers tired, eyes burning, but spirit alive, because now the silence was broken, because now someone was listening, because now she was not alone. The weeks that followed moved fast, faster than Amber could fully grasp. What began with one fine turned into something else, a chain reaction. Local news ran follow-up segments. Then regional stations picked it up, and then a national outlet featured a special, a full 5-minute story, B-roll of her neighborhood, close-ups of cracked sidewalks, painted curbs, and pastel houses with tiny protest signs and windows. This is not about parking, she told the camera. It is about control. It is about how cities erase people without ever touching them. Her words echoed across dining rooms and waiting rooms and social feeds. Suddenly, strangers knew her name. Amber Grant, former attorney, mother, driveway activist. The label made her laugh sometimes. Other times, it made her jaw clench, because none of this had been a choice. She had been dragged into it, feet first, but now she was standing, firm, unshaken. The neighborhood meetings became weekly, then bi-weekly. People showed up with notebooks, recorders. A retired teacher created an agenda template. A teenager with a drone mapped property lines to identify altered zones. A software engineer built a searchable database. They called themselves the Oak Ridge Watch. They printed shirts, set up a donation fund, filed their first formal complaint with the City Planning Commission. A hearing date was set, June 12th, in the tall beige building downtown, room 504. Amber circled the date in red on her wall calendar, underlined it twice. She began preparing like it was a trial, because in some ways it was not just for her, but for all of them. Each story mattered. Every fine, every letter, every family with one foot out the door. She read every case file, marked every timeline, cross-referenced every zoning code. Her desk turned into a command center. Sticky notes across the walls, paper trails taped together like forensic evidence. She had not felt this sharp in years, and not because of adrenaline, but purpose, pure electric purpose. 2 days before the hearing, someone left a note in her mailbox. No envelope, just a torn scrap of paper. Typed, "Stay home. You are stirring up trouble that will not end well." No signature. No return address. Amber held the paper in her hand for a long time. Then she folded it in half, placed it neatly in her case file. Evidence. Nothing more. Fear had no place here. The morning of the hearing, the courthouse steps filled early, not just with neighbors, but with citizens from nearby towns. People who had read the story, seen the broadcast, heard echoes of their own lives and hers. Amber stood at the front, wore a charcoal gray blazer, hair pulled back, eyes steady. She carried a binder under one arm. The other held her daughter's hand. At the top of the stairs, a man in a navy suit waited. Sunglasses, stern mouth, city official. He extended his hand. "Ms. Grant." She shook it. "Let's begin," she said. The hearing room was packed. Folding chairs added in the aisles. News cameras lined the back wall. The panel sat in front. 5 people, blank expressions, tired eyes, bureaucrats. Amber stepped to the podium, placed her binder down, cleared her throat, began. "My name is Amber Grant. I was fined $10,000 for parking in my own driveway." A murmur ran through the room. She waited, let the silence settle, then continued. "But this is not about me. This is about how power hides behind paperwork. How a city rewrites a map and suddenly generations are out of place." She clicked the projector. A slide appeared. Before and after maps. Highlighted zones. Overlapping lines. She spoke with clarity. With fire. With facts. The room listened. The panel watched her. She showed them letters. Dates. Photos of unannounced markings. She read stories from others. A widow who lost her shed. A family fined for a chicken coop. A man who had lived on the same lot since 1973, but now needed a variance to park his camper. She ended with a question. A simple one. Who are these rules really for? Silence. Then applause. Slow. Building. Real. The panel asked questions. Some were soft. Some sharp. Amber answered all. Unshaken. After 3 hours, they called a recess. Amber stepped outside. Breathed deep. The sun hit her face. She smiled at her daughter. Almost there. Later that day, the panel issued a temporary freeze. No more fines. No more liens. A full review of recent zoning changes would begin. Amber stood in the hallway when the announcement was made. People hugged, cried, laughed. Amber did not. She simply nodded. Because she knew this was not the end. It was a shift. The next chapter. Later that night, she sat on her porch. The air was thick with summer heat, but the quiet felt different now. It was not the hush of isolation. It was the stillness before movement. Her phone buzzed. Another message. This time from a city halfway across the country. "We're starting our own Oak Ridge Watch. Thank you for showing us how." Amber closed her eyes. Let that sink in. Not just heard. Not just seen. Echoed. Multiplied. The driveway was still empty. The fine was still on hold. But something far bigger had been built in its place. And no zoning law could pave over it. Not now. Not ever. Because the people had woken up. And Amber had helped them open their eyes. The next morning, Amber awoke before sunrise. The house was still. Outside, the trees swayed gently under a silver sky. Birdsong crept in through a cracked window. She moved slowly, stretching joints stiff from tension. In the kitchen, the coffee machine sputtered and clicked. Steam rose in twisting spirals. She stared at it, unfocused, thinking. Something had changed overnight. Not just a freeze order. Not just the media coverage. It was something deeper. An invisible current shifting beneath her feet. A realization that they had power. That she was not just reacting anymore. She was leading. It frightened her and thrilled her. By mid-morning, she received a package. No return address. Inside, a used parking meter. Spray-painted gold. A sticky note taped to it read, "For the woman who made us stop paying to exist." She laughed despite herself. the absurdity, the poetry. She placed it on her porch like a trophy. Neighbors walked by, smiled. Some pointed and chuckled. Children asked if it was real. She told them it was more real than most things these days. Later, her inbox overflowed again. Messages from across the country. Photos of chalk slogans on sidewalks. Driveways painted with bold letters. Zoning is not eviction. My home, my line. Amber woke us up. She scrolled through them, heart pounding. It was spreading, like wind through dry grass. In Iowa, a retired librarian was challenging an HOA for banning vegetable gardens. In Florida, a family launched a class action over code enforcement abuses. In Nevada, a group of veterans marched around City Hall in support of property rights. Each story different, but each rooted in the same seed, Amber's driveway, her refusal to be quiet. That evening, she sat down at her desk again, created a shared folder titled, The Quiet War, How to Fight Back. Inside, she uploaded templates, legal strategies, sample letters, evidence forms, instructions for requesting public records, checklists, everything she wished she had known. She linked it on the Oak Ridge Watch homepage, pinned it, made it free, made it open. By midnight, over 200 people had downloaded it. The next morning, she received a letter, certified mail, from the City of Oak Ridge Legal Department. She hesitated before opening it. Inside, a single page, formal, stiff, but unmistakable. The City of Oak Ridge hereby acknowledges Ms. Grant's testimony and submits a motion to retract a fine issued against her on April 3rd. She read it 3 times, then exhaled, slowly, deliberately. She did not cry. She did not cheer, because she knew it was not a gift. It was a retreat, an admission. They thought this would quiet her. It would not. She posted the letter online, captioned it, Victory is not silence. Victory is change. Comments flooded in, some cheering, some calling for lawsuits, some begging for guidance in their own fights. Amber responded to as many as she could, each reply a thread in a growing net, each answer a torch passed forward. On Friday, her daughter came home from school with a drawing, a house, a tree, a driveway, a stick figure woman in a cape. Amber looked at it for a long time. Her throat tightened. Is that me? She asked. Her daughter nodded, grinning. You are the driveway lady. Everyone at school says so. Amber laughed softly. I like that. Are you a superhero? Her daughter asked. Amber knelt, held her daughter's face gently. No, sweetie, I am just someone who parked wrong and decided not to move. But even as she said it, she knew it was not quite true. Not anymore, because standing still had made everything move. 2 weeks later, the Zoning Commission released a new plan, more transparent, more public, subject to community vote. Amber was asked to join the advisory board. She declined, but recommended 5 people who would fight harder than she could, and with less media glare. She wanted to stay on the ground, with the people, with the stories. Amber began traveling, speaking at community centers, libraries, union halls, backyards. People brought lawn chairs, printed her quotes on signs, T-shirts, phone cases. A man in Detroit tattooed her face next to the word reclaimed. She told him it was too much. He told her it was not enough. In every city, she listened more than she spoke, because every fine had a story. Every driveway had a name, and every one of them had felt small, until someone reminded them they were not. Amber reminded them. The woman with the binder and the empty driveway, the one who refused to disappear. And because of that, none of them would either. In the fall, a national summit was held, right to place, fighting displacement without bulldozers. Amber opened the event, walked onto a lit stage in a navy dress and boots streaked with sidewalk chalk. She looked out at the packed auditorium, thousands of faces, many she had never met, but all part of her story. All writing their own. She stepped to the mic, spoke slowly, clearly, each word carved with care. When they find me, they wanted me quiet, gone, folded. But I was not alone. You were out there, waiting, watching, and ready. The room exploded with applause. Amber stood still, breathing it in, not for herself, but for all the unseen people who had finally become visible. This was no longer just about zoning. This was about dignity, about permanence, about the right to draw a line around your life and say, "Here, this is mine," and never be punished for standing on it. Winter crept in slowly that year. Oak Ridge lay quiet beneath a layer of frost, the sidewalks silvered in morning light. Amber stood on her porch, a mug of tea warming her hands. The golden parking meter beside her was dusted in snow. Across the street, a new family was moving in. 2 kids chased each other in the yard, their laughter echoing between houses. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Normal things, everyday sounds. But they felt different now, heavier with meaning, lighter with hope. A local reporter stopped by for one final interview. He asked her what she had learned. Amber thought for a moment, watching the sun break through clouds. "That silence is not peace," she said. "That order is not always fairness." She smiled, and that even the smallest line, like a driveway, can become a battlefield. The reporter nodded, scribbling in his notebook. He asked what she would do next. Amber looked down at her driveway. The tire marks faded now, but not forgotten. "I will live," she said. "Here, fully, without apology." She stepped off the porch, walked across her yard, and parked her car in her driveway, like she always had, like she always would, not in defiance, not in protest, but in presence, because this was hers, and now the world knew it too. The camera clicked once. Amber looked up, not at the lens, but past it, toward the quiet street, toward the horizon, toward whatever came next. She did not fear it, because she had faced worse, and remained, unmoved, unfolded, home, at last, and completely free.